You hate government, one of them libertarian types, or maybe you just can't stand the president, gun grabbers, or warmongers. Me too. That's why I invented LibertyStickers.com. Well, Rick owns it now, and I didn't make up all of them, but still, if you're driving around and want to tell everyone else how wrong their politics are, there's only one place to go. LibertyStickers.com has got your bumper covered. Left, right, libertarian, empire, police, state, founders quotes, central banking. Yes, bumper stickers about central banking. Lots of them. And, well, everything that matters. LibertyStickers.com. Everyone else's stickers suck. All right, our guest is Keegan Stephan. You can follow him on Twitter at KeeganNYC. And that's also his web address, Keegan.NYC, which I didn't even know that was a thing, but there you go, Keegan.NYC. That's his web address. And, welcome back to the show. How are you doing?
Thanks. I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Appreciate you joining us here again. And, so he's a anti-police brutality activist. And, again, is joining us to talk about some of the people who've recently been killed by the cops. But I appreciate your suggestion in the email last night, Keegan, that we start with these 4 cops lied about getting shot.
Yeah,
and then blamed it on the Black Lives Matter movement. You say you've got the right to not be murdered? Why, you're inciting murder against me, they cry.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking that this whole movement to, have accountability among the police has created just a backlash of the police saying, like, absolutely no, there should be no accountability, and attacking the people, advocating for accountability.
Forget the unions. I think they should have their own political party. The police political party, their only interest is the cops at the expense of everybody else, and let's not pretend.
Yeah, I found in some of my research recently that a lot of the police unions actually have, super PACs, the political advocacy campaigns that can make donations above and beyond individual donations. So, we're halfway there.
Oh, they'd probably win. People be like, finally, the party we've been waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge union. They've got a lot of money for sure to be donating to.
Yeah, Palin one time said about Obama, she said, we don't need a lawyer at a lectern. We need a commander to command things. And the crowd went wild. So, yeah, we ought to not pretend that we're immune from this kind of thinking,
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so tell me about these 4 cops, though, seriously, because it sounds like, you must be lying. This is crazy talk.
I mean, yeah, I think that most people probably heard about the one case, this cop from Illinois, Fox Lake, was trending on Twitter. People were talking about this. It came out last week, and this was probably the biggest story because this cop was killed, and it looked like he was murdered in the line of duty when it happened. This was last month. News channels, politicians even were blaming the Black Lives Matter movement, because before he was killed, he identified some suspects and one of them was black. And so everybody jumped on it saying it was, a political murder by the Black Lives Matter movement of a cop. Everything about the case pointed to a murder. He was shot multiple times. His gun was found 20 feet away. And then it turned out that the whole thing was fabricated by this guy. And, he was part of this tactical unit that investigated crime. So he had an in-depth knowledge of how to manipulate a crime scene to make it look like a murder. And he had done all of those things. He implicated, 3 people. So there was a manhunt going on that could have obviously ended very, very poorly for.
Wait, stop right there. That's a point worth really elaborating, that apparently he saw 3 men, 2 white men and a black man, and then reported that, oh yeah, this is the description, so that there would be some real people to pin it on, not just, a vapor for the cops to chase on a snipe hunt, but here's 3 guys to pin it on if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that, people who are accused of killing cops get treated, those people could have very likely been shot and killed, right, when being pursued. So,
very good point. And or the cops could have just decided, yeah, we are going to prosecute them and give them the check.
Yeah. And people who are, accused of killing cops tend not to get the most fair and due process. So yeah, very dangerous situation he set up for these 3 innocent people. And then it turned out he staged the whole thing for extremely nefarious reasons. He had been robbing from a fund set up to train young police officers, teenagers who wanted to become cops. He was stealing money from this ostensibly charitable campaign to fund his own porn addiction. and vacations for his family. And he was being investigated by, a new sort of internal affairs investigator in the department. And he was worried that he was going to get caught. His original plan to not get caught was to kill the internal affairs person. Apparently, he made some moves toward hiring a hitman to kill her when he found out that this wasn't going to work, or figured out that this probably wasn't.
Hey, Keegan, come on. At least ultimately he did the right thing. Okay, I'm sorry. Hold it right there. We'll be right back, everybody, with Keegan Stephan right after this. Keegan.nyc. Hey, all Scott here. If you're like me, you need coffee. Lots of it. And you probably prefer it tastes good, too. Well, let me tell you about Darren's Coffee Company at darrenscoffee.com. Darren Marion is a natural entrepreneur who decided to leave his corporate job and strike out on his own, making great coffee. And Darren's Coffee is now delivering right to your door. Darren gets his beans direct from farmers around the world. All specialty, premium grade with no filler. Hey, the man just wants everyone to have a chance to taste this great coffee. darrenscoffee.com. Use promo code Scott and you get free shipping. darrenscoffee.com. Hey, y'all, guess what? You can now order transcripts of any interview I've done for the incredibly reasonable price of $2.50 each. Listen, finding a good transcriptionist is near impossible, but I've got one now. Just go to scotthorton.org/transcripts, enter the name and date of the interview you want written up, click the PayPal button, and I'll have it in your email in 72 hours max. You don't need a PayPal account to do this. Man, I'm really going to have to learn how to talk more good. That's scotthorton.org/transcripts. All right, you guys, welcome back to the show. I'm talking with Keegan Stephan about our Imperial Standing Army of Lawless Killers, a.k.a. the peace officers of your local sheriff's department, city police force. All right, now, Keegan, we got to get through the cops hurting themselves and blaming Black Lives Matter here real quick, because we got a lot of dead people to honor and to accuse their murderers over here too before the top of the hour. So we talked about the suicide of this cop who tried to frame up a bunch of people he saw walking nearby before he killed himself, and it was all because he was a corrupt criminal scumbag and was caught for it, and even had plotted to murder the internal affairs officer, as you said, before finally ending it for all of us. But it should be noted, too, that they had a huge manhunt and all this stuff, pretending that they were finding the real killers, when, in fact, they knew it was a suicide from the very beginning, or had plenty of reason to believe anyway. But I'm sorry. Anyway, if you could wrap up the other three here real quick so we can talk about all the other, the giant pile of skulls these people are piling up like Pol Pot.
Yeah, the main thing is that everybody was aware of this Fox Lake killing, but, it was just one of, many police who have been killed this year that have been blamed on Black Lives Matter. But, when I heard about this, I started remembering all the articles I've been reading recently, and I pulled them together, and I quickly found that in the last month, there had actually been 4 cops who were shot that blamed imaginary perpetrators, and who turned out to all be lying, and who had all shot themselves or been shot by their partners, and all of whom had come up with elaborate stories, incriminating other people. One, said it was 2 black people who committed a drive-by in a car. One, said their vehicle was fired upon by an SUV. Another one said he was shot at a traffic stop. So all feeding this mad frenzy of Fox News and Associates blaming the Black Lives Matter movement, and all turned out to be false. 4 in 1 month is actually a really large percentage of the amount of police officers shot. So it definitely goes to discredit the Ferguson effect and all of its backlash. Yeah, man, and that's the real point, is just how much mileage right-wing media in America has gotten out of these shootings. And it's like lies about Iran's nuclear program. It doesn't matter that none of them are true. As long as there's an endless stream of accusations, it seems like it all must be at some point. And so virtually the entire American right now, is under this impression that the poor little cops are under siege by the evil black civil rights protesters. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to go back and change people's minds once they get a narrative, lodged in their That's really tough. Well, I think an important way is, and
this is cynical and horrible, don't get me wrong, but whatever. It's important, I think an important way to break through to people is show them dead white people at the hands of the cops too, like this 6-year-old boy whose life has more value in America than that. A 6-year-old little white boy killed by a couple of cops. Or this guy, the Idaho rancher who's living the American dream, who split logs for 20 years to build this little place for him and his wife to live out their days, and just outright executed on the side of the road for what? Not even the temerity of defying the sheriff deputy's orders, but basically just doing what everyone expected of him, shooting the crippled bull in the back of the head, and they just spun him around and shot him to death as though they had just said, well, he does have a gun in his hand. I bet we could get away with it. Let's murder him. There was no other incentive for them to murder him other than the fun of it. And he was white as could be, and they're going to get away with it as though he was the poorest, fatherless black kid in the ghetto, too.
Yeah, these were all pretty shocking cases. I mean, the case of that 6-year-old could not be more stark. The cops to begin with were violating federal law by opening fire, or federal jurisdiction or federal rules, by opening fire on a moving vehicle. Even though they were completely in the wrong to begin with, and they killed this 6-year-old white child, the news media and the police came out immediately saying that, the father in the car probably had a gun, probably fired at them, might have even killed his own child, totally trying to deface, this individual and absolve the police of all wrongdoing. And then, there was video evidence, luckily, and all of that turned out to be false. And now these police officers have been indicted. There's a silver lining there. However, these cops never should have been on the job. They have these outrageous records of past abuses, escalating even to aggravated rape, that one of them was indicted for. They have 5 open lawsuits, including breaking the arm of a 14-year-old girl on a school bus, pepper spraying a 15-year-old at a 4th of July celebration, and yet they were active duty cops, policing the community with guns. It turns out that one of their fathers was an assistant DA in the town, a small town with only 8 assistant DAs. So it's probably easy to imagine why all these charges were dismissed or disappeared or didn't result in any disciplinary action.
And weren't they marshals? Weren't they marshals? I think I read a thing about the city police or the county sheriffs or somebody were complaining that these guys are patrolling in our jurisdiction where they don't belong.
Yeah, one of them is city marshal. There's all sorts of overlap of police forces in this town, it seems. But none of them, had in the past recused themselves or drawn any attention to this to get any sort of reform.
They'll get $50 fine and time served like on night court. That's it.
Yeah, it is interesting to see a couple things here. I think the parallel with Tamir Rice, the 12-year-old black child who was killed in Ohio, the officer who killed him, even though that's also on video, and he gave no time for Tamir to drop the toy gun before shooting and killing him. It's a year later, and that cop hasn't been indicted. So the racial disparity is very clear. However, even though these cops were indicted, I don't think we should have any faith at this point that they are going to be convicted of a crime and spend any time in jail. And I think that's clear by this other case I sent you of.
Well, I don't think it's just the race thing. I think in this case, it's the jealousies of the different jurisdictions involved, where the city police are happy to go ahead and arrest these marshals because they're not of them; they're a separate team. So go ahead.
Yeah, perhaps. We'll see how
that's
deep
part
the
of it anyway.
blue
I think.
line goes. Yeah, but there is a tendency for anybody, sort of extending the favors of the badge, right? They go from one police force to another.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I'm just saying, you know what, if they had been the regular city police on the job or whatever, they probably would not have been indicted at all. I think
might not have happened,
Or been charged. And and it'll be interesting to see what happens with this thing in Idaho where they had no cause, and the Idaho Statesman has a great write-up of this. There's absolutely no cause to kill this guy. But he did have a rifle in his hand, and that they're just going to go judge waistband or whatever and get away with it.
It's pretty crazy, especially because the police called the rancher. They were like, this guy's bullet on the loose. We need help getting it under control. And the guy shows up with his gun. Of course, he's a rancher. He's there's a bull on the loose. What would you expect someone like this to be doing? And it seems like, the police completely overreacted, viewed him as a threat, murdered him without him firing any shots. Which is, this sort of crazy standard operating procedure when we hear about, police involved shootings. Even when people have guns, very rarely, do they shoot first or shoot at all? And the police, for some reason, are still justified in opening fire. So people who are potentially legally carrying in open carry states, are being killed and people are saying it's justified because they have guns, even though they're completely justified in having those guns.
Right. Yeah. The Washington Post had its big thing about everybody killed by the cops so far this year and how many of them had weapons in their hands. And I guess especially if they have brown skin, you're supposed to assume they had that weapon to commit a crime with. But why? Why do we assume that? This is America. Everybody's got weapons so we can defend our lives in case somebody tries to commit a crime against us. And what's funny about... I mean, not funny, but in a ha-ha way, but in a horrible kind of way is you look at Tamir Rice, the little boy with the gun. Well, he is black and he is wearing a sweatshirt and whatever. And somebody called the cops on him because he was terrified. And so the cops made a bunch of bad assumptions on the way to the scene, apparently, and acted them out in this crazy kind of way. But like in this case, in other words, I can see where people can figure out rationalizations for this. But like in this case, who in the world believes that the rancher got a phone call that his bull had been hit by a car and was mad down at the scene and needed to be put down and thought to himself, finally, here's my chance to execute 2 sheriff's deputies for arriving on the scene. I'll show them. Nobody believes that. That's crazy. Obviously, he just went down there to shoot the bull. How in the world could it possibly be that anyone could imagine that he meant to cause any harm to anyone? You know?
Yeah, and that's sort of the standard for prosecuting the cops, is that they acted outside of reasonable behavior, and we'll see how that plays out, I guess, in the eyes of the jury.
Yep. And it's funny about the Tamir Rice thing, where as you said, they gave him no warning. They pull right up on him, and the cop just gets out and shoots him. And as you said, it's on video, and in fact, them beating the crap out of his sister, who came to try to save his life, is on video as well. And they just skated away with that clean. They got sovereign immunity, all of them, either outright or de facto. They've got a license to kill us, Keegan. That's the deal, man. Listen, thanks for coming back on the show. I'm sorry we're out of time. Let's do this again soon. See y'all tomorrow. Thanks. Hey, y'all, guess what? You can now order transcripts of any interview I've done for the incredibly reasonable price of $2.50 each. Listen, finding a good transcriptionist is near impossible, but I've got one now. Just go to scotthorton.org/transcripts, enter the name and date of the interview you want written up. Click the PayPal button, and I'll have it in your email in 72 hours max. You don't need a PayPal account to do this. Man, I'm really going to have to learn how to talk more good. That's scotthorton.org/transcripts. Hey, Scott Horton here to tell you about this great new book by Michael Swanson, The War State. In The War State, Swanson examines how Presidents Truman, Eisenhower, and Kennedy both expanded and fought to limit the rise of the new national security state after World War II. If this nation is ever to live up to its creed of liberty and prosperity for everyone, we are going to have to abolish the empire. Know your enemy. Get The War State by Michael Swanson. It's available at your local bookstore or at Amazon.com in Kindle or in paperback. Just click the book in the right margin at scotthorton.org or thewarstate.com. Hey, Scott Horton here for MPV Engineering. This isn't for all of you, but for high-end contractors specializing in industrial construction and end users who own and operate industrial equipment. MPV offers licensed professional consulting on chemical and mechanical engineering for your projects. Tanks, pressure vessels, piping, heat exchangers, HVAC equipment, chemical reactors for oil companies or manufacturing facilities, as well as project management support and troubleshooting for those implementing designs. MPV will get your industrial project up and running. Head over to mpvengineering.com.